Oh, is it
And
reversed?
it's live.
And we are live.
Yeah,
Wow.
aye, indeed. We are
What?
live with the first Anfield Aftermath. Welcome.
And what a week it's been.
Has
I
been
know,
quite
yeah.
a week.
What a week
We've
for
had-
football. In
Not
general,
much has happened,
not
has
even
it?
LFC.
Well, there's been much more happening off the pitch than on the pitch. I can put it that way.
Yeah.
Right, so what are we starting with? Because obviously there's been our game, but do we
It's
want to
been
start
two.
with the
I'm trying to think.
small
Actually, what's two?
controversy?
We'll
What was-
probably spend most of this talking about
Oh,
not the
Leeds.
game. So should we go about the game first? Or the games
Yeah, we get the games done.
get the games
Sure.
done. So first game, Leeds away. Overall views.
Very typical
Disappointing.
Liverpool, it seemed.
Yeah, we looked good in the
Typical
first
Liverpool
half.
of late,
Yeah.
as in, I mean,
Looks-
Mane got a goal.
Yeah, but it's still the same as usual, and it's like looks really good, but the numbers don't show that. Really good
so-
until the last part.
Granted, there was times when we obviously lost to Burnley and Brighton at home when the numbers looked fantastic. Where you're like, wow. If you literally saw
Yeah.
the stats and didn't see the score, you'd be like,
Yeah.
Liverpool must have won this 5-0. But
No.
very similar stats. A lot of possession, most of the attacks,
A lot of passes.
lots of shots, lots of passes. Only managed to find the goal once and ended up bottling it. So the mentality monsters are long gone, and we are left with what's a bad word beginning with M?
Jamie Carragher said the mentality
Mentality.
midgets, but I don't know if that's allowed.
Yeah,
Mentality.
I must admit it did come to mind, but I wasn't convinced that was a kosher word.
I don't know. He
I don't know if that's
didn't seem to get in trouble with it, but I don't know.
I mean, he's done a lot worse than that and didn't get in trouble for it. So
True.
Yeah, yeah, but he did spit at someone that he did get in trouble for.
Anyway, Jamie Carragher aside.
I said we've gone from mentality monsters to the fragile minds of Liverpool Football Club, where as soon as they can see the goal, head goes, can't struggle to see out, can't seem to hold on to a win, can't see out a game. The thing is, it's like when they won the league last season, and so often you'd look with like especially with Van Dijk and the team and Henderson in the team, you could be 1-0 up or sometimes 2-0 up, and you would have no concerns, thinking, no, they are categorically going to see this out because they are headstrong. And now they look like bottling it every lead they get, unless they concede first, in which case they're doomed from the from that point.
I think it's weird though, because it's not even like an issue. I mean, it is obviously an issue in defence because we're letting one pass, but it's not even mostly an issue in defence. Like, for the majority of like both games, our defence was fairly solid. It was just for the fact that we didn't put any of the chances we had away.
It's baffling.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think it's not necessarily not an issue defensively. Like, I agree that the issue, I think there's two issues, because going forward there's obviously an issue with getting tons of chances but not scoring any goals. But defensively, like yesterday was a perfect example of like Newcastle only really needed one chance. You know what I mean? They scored twice in the final 2 minutes. I just feel like defensively, as soon as like we can hold a team in the midfield, but as soon as they get that one opportunity, like we're leading the game 1-0, we're holding on to a 1-0 lead. As soon as you give them any sniff of a chance, they'll get it, and that is a defensive weakness. Because
I mean,
it would be nice to be ahead by 4 goals, but it would also be nice to be able to hold on to these 1-0 leads. I just feel like as soon as you give them any opportunity, they score it.
Yeah, not any. Like, they do look dangerous for a while. Like, I can't remember the Leeds one because it was quite a far while ago, but Newcastle did have a good fair few challenges. Although,
It was a
saying
set
that,
piece, and and we conceded from a set piece against Newcastle
No,
as
I
well.
mean
So
their
like,
chances. I mean their chances before that though. Like I can't remember if Leeds had a lot of chances just from open play or
a
not.
couple, they hit the crossbar at one point, and that was it. But it was very similar to
Yeah.
Newcastle. Of like, they had a couple of chances. Allison made some good saves, but you can't
Yeah.
expect Allison to save every
I
single
tell you
thing. Like,
what,
you need to be shutting them
it's
down.
so disrespectful for him because he's looked really good, but because it ends up with a negative result, it goes missing. Like some of the saves he's pulled in both the Leeds game and in the Newcastle game were phenomenal, but because it was like overshadowed by the fact that we still managed to lose, it goes missing. It's annoying.
Something it just says it's just not clicking. I said you've got like Salah seems to be Salah can score, but no one can like. At best, we look to have no matter how many chances we create, one goal in us each game.
Obviously Salah's still been performing, but I still think even through the chances that we have, it's been shocking. Like some of the chances we have from him, I think there was one where I think it was either Bobby or Thiago managed to like sky the ball on the Newcastle game, managed to sky the ball backwards, and I think it was Salah was like through on his own, and he ran and he tried to like step around the keeper, and he ended up just messing up. And I was like, you should have just shot before you tried to step around them. That's like a chance that I'd expect him to score.
I mean, the thing is though, he's still. What, is he
He's,
one goal behind
I
Harry
mean, yeah,
Kane now in the race
he's
for
still
Golden Boot?
he's
Like,
still doing
you
he's still
can't.
doing incredible. I'm not like faulting his like
Salah
performance for us.
Salah is scoring goals. Like, every player
Yeah,
will miss some chances. I don't think you can put him in with the rest of them in terms of like he's not doing enough, because I feel like
no,
he
no,
is
I'm
doing
not.
enough.
Yeah,
If
I'm
everyone
not.
was performing at the level he is, we wouldn't have a problem.
Just to be
Like,
clear, I don't
the,
I don't mean he should be put in with the rest of the group. I just mean like imagine if these went in, his records would be like. Because I think in a normal season they probably would, but I think even his mentality is shot, but just to a degree where it's not the same on everyone else's.
the thing
And if
is,
he
if
was,
you've
if it
got a
wasn't,
team, if you've got a team where only one person can score goals, and you've got a situation at the back like we've got at the moment, where we haven't got our senior centre backs. We've got a makeshift defensive line every other week, and then we've only got one player on the team that can actually score a goal. You're not gonna win many games. Like, that's just facts, because you're gonna be leaky at the back because you got this like makeshift line, and if you can't score goals at the front, then you're just not gonna win games. Like, that's just simple facts. And I mean, we've seen it before when like we had Suarez, like, and even when we had Torres, like, you got that one player that can score goals, but if you're weak in other areas, it doesn't work. You can't rely on one player to just like win a league for you, and that's the position we found ourselves back in. And what worries me is like Mane is so bad lately. Like, Bobby's been slipping for a while. I think it's time to
but I still
not
think there's
necessarily
value
strip
for
him, but
him off the ball as well. Like he was
not
incredible.
enough though.
No,
Not
not
enough.
enough. Not enough to back it up. Like he still needs the stats to level it.
In previous years, I felt like he scored enough goals that you could. There was always an
Justify.
argument of like,
Yeah.
well, look at what else he's doing as well.
Mm.
But this year, he's like, I don't even know how many goals he scored, but it can't be a lot because I can't recall many off the top
No.
of my head.
3, I don't know.
I think it might
And
be
then
around 3 or 4.
my
Oh,
worry with Mane is like, he first of all, he's so bad this season that like it's shocking, because it's not just a drop in form. He can't seem to get it back. It's obviously like a lack in confidence. We seen in that Newcastle attempt yesterday. It was a clear goal. Like, a team of Werner could have scored that, and somehow he managed to mess it up. And you can tell that he's in his own head about it. Like, as soon as he receives the ball in front of goal, he talks himself out of shooting.
Mm.
But my worry is like, he scored against Leeds, and you would expect, like, I know in previous seasons we've had games where like Salah's gone like 10 games without scoring, and it's all over the news, like Mo Salah goal drought. Then he'll score a goal and he'll be back. Like, it's that simple for him. As soon as he gets a goal, he's back. Mane scored against Leeds, and I think everyone thought, all right, well, we drew.
That's it.
There
Now
was
it's
all the
done.
negativity about the ESL. The players were distracted. It wasn't a great game. We at least got a point out of it. But important thing is Mane scored, so hopefully he's back now. He's got his goal scoring head back on. And then we come to Newcastle, and he's just as bad as he's been all season. So my worry is like, it's not that simple with him. And what is it going to take to get him back?
Mm. I mean, people are saying at the moment, it's like, obviously there's the rumours that we've heard because you've sent in the group chat about the LFC cashing in on Mo Salah. And if anyone should be in that conversation, it probably should be Mane. Now, people are obviously refuting this and saying he has one bad season and you lose all faith in him. But, like, it's a season where we really needed him to step up. And it's a season where, like, the other winger has been doing his job. So, what do we just keep allowing them? Like, seasons where they can drop off because of the past? Because they used to be good. Where'd you put the line between declining and just having a poor form? Like, where'd you decide that? Because if a season's not that, then I don't know what is. 2 seasons? 3 seasons? What? It's just like, if anyone should be in that conversation when we're worried about cashing them in, it shouldn't be Salah, it should be Mane.
Cash in Salah and it's game over.
It's mental. It's
with
mental. I know that this exists. I don't get why. I mean, I get I hear people why they say it, but I don't understand it. And they say, like, why Salah doesn't get enough credit. Because usually just like, it's either the excuse of, oh, he's a diver, or he just gets lucky, or something like that, or everyone just passes the ball to him. And it's like, bullshit. He's incredible. He's one of our best players. He's definitely our best attacker.
Ever.
Like, what is it now? He's on, like, with, I think, the only positive that I could take out of Newcastle was that I think this was his 4th season where he scored over 20 goals in the Prem. And I think that's the first in Liverpool history.
He's scored over 20 every single season, so his consistency is there.
I think that's the record for Liverpool throughout history. I think there's been no player for 4 consecutive seasons where they've managed to get over 20 goals.
If you want to know, in terms of Premier League goal scorers for Liverpool this season, which sort of sums up where the issues lie, Salah on 20. The next highest goal scorer is Jota and Mane, both on 8. And
which is just ridiculous when you consider that Jota's been out for like months.
Then it's Bobby on 6. And then we have Trent and Wijnaldum on 2 each.
Bloody hell.
So it's like the drop-off is just huge. It's like, so obviously goals aren't coming from anywhere else in the team other than the front 4. And 3 of the front 4 aren't scoring.
See, that's just like a welcome sign for like other teams to know what to target. Like, just get 2 people marking Salah, the rest of them will just bottle it. Problem solved. We'll see what happens. But basically, what would you even suggest? Like a tactical change or what? Because we tried that against Newcastle with the front 4.
Just score goals.
Just get like 6 months finishing practice.
To be fair, I mean, for starters, I'd potentially... Who can play in the middle?
What do you mean in the middle of the front?
Bobby.
I'd maybe put Shaqiri on the left, Jota in the middle, and Salah on the right.
Shaqiri on the left, did you say?
Shaqiri's played on the left before.
But what would you not put Jota there? That's his natural position, his left wing.
I put Jota in the middle. I don't think Shaqiri could play in the middle.
I know we've done it before where we've had Jota on there.
I'm trying to find a way where I wouldn't play Bobby or Mane, and I'd give Shaqiri a go because, I mean, the others aren't scoring. And to be fair, I can't recall a time where Shaqiri's been given a chance and he hasn't been good. Well,
there's rumours that we're reforming Ox to be a striker, isn't it?
Looks to be going well by the amount of game time he's getting.
Well, that was going to be my next point. Is maybe we could just give him a go.
I imagine that's happening on the training ground, similar to Ben Davies. Like they must be doing something with him. But I would say, right, we've got 5 games left, 6 yesterday before the game, and they're so important for us to get Champions League football. I would say right now, Klopp's thinking is like he might have these ideas for these players, but that comes next season. Right now, these games are so important. You go with your tried and tested methods of like put the best, strongest 11 out and get the job done. Obviously, it's not working, but I would say that's his thinking. Is like send the best 11 out there every week, get the points in, and maybe we can get Champions League out of it.
I think I'd say we're here on the 25th of April, and we still have the same issues we've had since this time in December.
Well,
with
January.
Converting goals. I mean, granted, I feel like after, I think, was it the game at like something like the 26th, 27th December, something like that, ever since then, seemingly we've dropped off completely.
I think
Can't convert.
West Brom, which was just after Christmas, was the first game where we actually struggled to
So
actually put a goal in.
Ultimately, it's been like 4 months, and we still have the same issues without converting chances. And it's like, well,
but it's so
how
bizarre
long
as well
do
because
you
it's so
play in the same
detached.
tried and tested team?
It's so detached from the other issue. I mean, it obviously isn't because it relates to the whole team, but our issue is the defense, and that's not even the majority of the problem right now. It obviously still is a problem, but it's not the majority of the problem. It's so
I mean,
bizarre.
I think it carries forward.
Yeah, it does. But
But
it's, when you look at it at face value, it's like, why is that? Why is the defense stopping them from being able to finish? Because that shouldn't even be in their mind at the moment.
I do somewhat agree because I feel like it is a knock-on effect. Because so Klopp doesn't particularly. Obviously, Ben Davis is waiting for the super soldier serum to get passed to him before he makes an appearance. Doesn't trust Reece Williams at the back. He's just like he like desperately need cover. Nat Phillips is injured because why not have another centre back injured? So he's playing Fabinho back in defence, and I agree it is a knock on effect because then they played with sort of like a double pivot in Newcastle with Thiago and Wijnaldum holding because neither of them are basically as effective as Fabinho or Henderson would be in that role. And because he got two of the midfielders trying to protect the back four, and I also think the forwards are putting in a more of a shift to cover the defence as well. We're getting less midfielders forward, and the forwards are getting
Well,
the
that was probably
forwards are
the
getting
goal with
forward
Partey the
less.
other day, wasn't it?
But it's like when you had like Van Dijk there, like if you're in midfield, you look over your shoulder now and think, Christ, I don't really want to go forward here. I best hang back and protect those two. Whereas you look over your shoulder and you've got Van Dijk stood behind you, be like, nah, I'm fine. I'll join in this attack. So, and I feel like it has been a major factor in we're not getting enough goals from midfield or anywhere else because they're so defensively minded most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even know at this stage what to suggest. I think it's just as James indicated, just start the best players that you can and hope to get the results from them. Because what else can you do really apart from try and take a risk, which we've tried to do a few times and it's not really worked.
Yes, nothing's really working at the moment, but I do feel like maybe, I mean, you could give Ox a go. I mean, you maybe play Ox where Bobby started against Newcastle.
As like a 10, yeah.
Yeah, and I said give Shaqiri a go because I don't know how many he keeps getting in the team. If I'm honest.
No, I think
I think
out of all the front the front four now or three, I think he's the one that probably needs to be on the bench for a little bit.
I just don't know what to do to fix him in the long term.
Just hope that the new season is a refresh and hopefully fans being back brings them back to form.
Hopefully sorting out defence may sort it.
Yeah.
Also,
I do feel like had that been a full Anfield, it would have been different. I always say that after every single game.
Boy,
and every team is suffering from the same thing. But I do genuinely think because like Mo Salah scoring that early goal as well, it would have been bouncing in there straight away, and that would have G'd them all up.
everyone would have
Like,
been brimming with confidence.
And even when you miss a chance, like it still gets the crowd going, and it gets you in that mindset of like, I'll get it now, I'll have another go, and I'll do it next time instead.
Yeah.
Like now, it's like they miss a chance and they just go, it's happening again. And the crowd aren't there to go, come on, lad, just do it, just have another go. And in their head, they're just thinking, it's happening again. I keep missing.
If any other football fan tries to say that there's any other team that's missing the crowd more than LFC, I will argue until however long they want to go for. There's a reason we
1v1
them. Yeah, I'll 1v1 them on Rust. I'll do whatever. There's a reason we were
details in the
called
chat.
Fortress Anfield. Yeah, if you're in chat, if you're watching this live right now, wait, which side is it? It's that side. Put it in the chat there, or if you're watching this back on YouTube, put it down there. There's a reason we were called Fortress Anfield. It was the fans. Fans led them to the point where they couldn't be beaten there, and now that's gone.
Oh no.
Coincidentally, we're having a shit run.
It's all part of it's also part of like Klopp's MO. I mean, Klopp uses the fans to its absolute potential, which is why I think Liverpool's such a good fit for him, because it works perfect for him. Because Liverpool are renowned to have fantastic atmosphere at Anfield. Anfield's got a huge reputation, and the fans of Liverpool are well known. And then Klopp's been all about harnessing all that fan power, and obviously to build up a very, very headstrong team. And obviously without them, they've really, really suffered. I mean, Man City might notice that there's maybe a couple of hundred less people at the stadium than what there normally is, but other than that, but it's tough. And I think, and I mean, I hate to say it, but it's just like since January. I mean, in January, I was more annoyed. I was absolutely livid when we're just losing game after game, and then losing 6 in a row at Anfield was utterly. It was embarrassing. It was shambolic. How on earth that happened with this team and under Klopp's watch, I'll never know. But I'm sort of past being angry now. I'm literally just bored of watching this team do this every single week. I'm just it's hard.
You could sort of tell it was going to happen as well, couldn't you?
Oh, the writing was on the wall, because I messaged my dad just before halftime. Went, Dad, winning 1-0. He couldn't watch the game because he was out at the time. I said, winning 1-0 had countless chances, not taken them, and there's always gonna I feel like Newcastle will be able to sense a sucker punch here and just nick a goal. And I think I told you that at halftime, because it's happened so many times.
I think we all knew. That as soon as we get a 1-0, if we have chances and we don't take them, we know that something's gonna go wrong.
Because
it happened with Leeds. It's always late on as well. It happened with Leeds. And it happened with Newcastle.
Because it's like, if you go in 1-0 half-time and you've absolutely battered the team, but you haven't got the goals to stand for it. If Newcastle were 3-0 down at half-time, it would have been damage limitation. But their team talk at half-time would have been, you know what, guys? It's a miracle we're only 1 down here. If we go out and give this a go, they'll grow tired. And then if we keep plucking away, we just need one moment.
That's exactly what they did. You could tell from the subs they were making at 60, 70 minutes. You could tell from the subs they brought on Callum Wilson, who was I think he's their highest goal scorer, and they had him working in partnership with Alan St. Maximum, who's just the paciest fucker in the Premier League right now, apparently.
But
I mean, he shouldn't be at Newcastle. I don't know how he's still at Newcastle.
It's just,
I don't know. Has he been there long, or is he new?
Yeah, no, he's been there a while.
Has he?
I'm just.
Well, all we can hope is that we fix this rut of maybe score 1 goal, very luckily get chances, and then bottle it late on and start looking shaky.
I mean, unfortunately, I would say it is 90% over. If they're gonna make top 4, they have to get 3 points in the remaining 5 games and have a hell of a lot of luck on their side in terms of other fixtures. Do I see them getting 3 points at United away when they can't even beat Newcastle at home? No. So I think it'll be final nail in the coffin next week, but I do think it's already done. And
Plus, you're relying on the likes of Chelsea and Leicester to drop as well. Because I think even if we win all of the remaining points, I think, and West Ham, they lost, but they're still in the race for it entirely.
Everton still have a chance.
Everton, Tottenham, with the new manager now, they've got a bounce. Even if we win all of our next fixtures, even if we were to get 3 points from every single fixture from now, I think we'd still need Chelsea, Leicester, and I think Everton, because they've got a game in hand over us. I think we still need them to drop points. So even if we just win, I think it's gone. But
I mean, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's very, very unlikely. But we absolutely certainly will have to get 3 points in the remaining 5 games. Right now, I just can't see that being a possibility. So
I think we do well to get 9 points out of the remaining 5 games.
For me, it's a shame.
For me, the season is over. It's done.
Yeah,
I'd rather not be in the Europa League.
The repercussions it is going to have long term.
Yeah,
it's less money. It's potentially like it's difficult in terms of not only recruitment but retention, because how do you convince Salah to stay at a club that isn't in Europe?
To be
Which I think he
fair,
will for one.
Good.
For a,
Yeah, you absolutely could this summer, I feel like.
yeah,
yeah, no,
But,
I agree.
but if you
It's
don't get
what
back into Champions League next year, it's game over.
yeah,
it's what happens next year, and then obviously with less money means less recruitment altogether. It's harder to recruit players into a club that aren't going to be in Europe. So it's just going to
It's
cause a lot of
it's a
Luckily,
problems.
slippery slope because it's harder to recruit players in this summer to help solve this issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
And then
I think on the same breath of like, well, we're lucky because we can retain some players because they know it's just a poor season. I think that could be the same for other players as well. Like something we'll cover in again in a bit is we've allegedly, you're still waiting to hear the official announcement, but we've allegedly got Konate, Ibrahima Konate, who is he's a top young defender and he's looking like he's still wanting to come and join us. So maybe people will just think this is just a weird season, that they'll be back at it from next season.
I agree. I mean, I think if you get Van Dijk back and Henderson over summer,
And
get a
Gomez.
defender in, could be Konate. I still think we need a forward and we need a midfielder.
Well,
Um,
this whole thing we can discuss later because we're gonna go on to the transfer because I've got a few things I'd want to talk about on it as well.
but get Anfield full again.
Yeah,
I fully expect you will see probably a 90% version of Liverpool from last year.
yeah.
I reckon.
I certainly hope so, and I like not even in a hopeful way, but I do think that will be enough of like a refresh to convince everyone. Okay, back to normal now. Let's go.
That's it. Like a team walks out next season with Henderson and Van Dijk in the team, and depending on when things are allowed, they walk out to see the cop bouncing, singing. It will completely change them. I think
Yeah, absolutely.
it's absolutely
Okay.
tragic because Thiago, like Thiago joined,
Mm,
and I don't think he hasn't even seen a fan yet.
no,
No.
same with
Uh,
Jota. And it's even more of a shame for Jota because of his phenomenal start. Like, can you imagine the fans?
I mean, the chance that he would have had Jota, it would have been for when he was absolutely
I know.
banging them in. If you want to know, I mean, I know I love throwing in an odd. So, top four finish in the Premier League as it stands. I think as I speak, Leeds and United are 0-0, which doesn't really matter much, regardless. To be honest, it doesn't really affect us either way. But right, so Man United, well, definitely, 1,000-1 finishing top four. But the interesting thing is Leicester are 4-1, Chelsea are 2-1, and then it's Liverpool at 8-15. So it favours Liverpool for top four finish at the moment over West Ham, Tottenham, and Everton.
But I think that's just based on history. I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
football
it
can't
absolutely
really
is
be
based on
determined by
history.
stats.
Oh no, I fully agree. I mean, stats are
They're
9
just an
times out of 10
indicator.
Liverpool would have beat Newcastle.
Yeah, they're just an indicator. They're not actually anything that can be used for solid evidence.
Oh no, I feel like
Depends on the stat.
Most stats.
Expected goals is a pretty good indication of.
I did also not realise it is
But that's
is
usually
it,
an active stat, isn't it? That's usually active during the game, is it not?
it's the League Cup final today. Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Is that Tottenham and City?
Tottenham and City,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
indeed. Right.
So, should we move on to another big topic from football this week in the form of the European Super League?
that was
So,
funny.
this was probably one of the biggest news from football for a good probably since the breakaway for the Premier League, probably.
Huge.
If you've been living under a rock, the European Super League is basically 12 was going to be 15 founding teams, the owners, and purely the owners. No staff. The board was involved, but no staff, managers, players, fans were consulted. They just all decided to go off on their own and make a new league because they are not happy with the way UEFA runs the Champions League. So they basically just had an idea of, you know what, we're the ones that bring in all the revenue. We want more money. We want more control. Let's just us make a league because they're not going to survive without us. It's still unclear whether or not it was just a threat for more control or power or money in UEFA's competitions, but it didn't look like it. Basically, the format they had, they made a whole format. They got in an investor. They started looking into distributors, and it just makes absolutely zero sense. So, do either of you know what the actual format was?
Yeah,
The full
it was
format.
basically the NFL. They were going to have 2 conferences. So like, what was it? 15 teams plus 5, so 20 teams total.
Yeah. So 15
So then it was
founding
gonna
clubs plus 5 promoted, depending on their domestic season.
Which, by the way, even that wasn't explained. Like whether it was one team from each domestic league or
Yeah.
whether like there was some other criteria to it. Like maybe if it works like the wild card in the NFL, which I'm going to assume it would have done because the whole thing is American based, it would have been based on points total of each team, regardless of league. But even that's skewed because the leagues are so different and competition in each league is so different. Basically, the whole thing doesn't make sense. They didn't think any of it through. But so there was going to be basically 2 conferences of 10 teams each. Every team would play each other like a regular league twice a year, and then at the end of that, you would have presumably, was there playoffs?
Yes. Yeah.
How many teams go into the playoffs?
I don't think that was made clear from the plans that we had, because a lot of it was, this was the foundation and they were going to figure out a lot of the details later on.
Because I know there was going to be a final cup at the end of it.
Yeah.
Which I assume would be the champions of each conference would win a cup, and then they would play off against each other to win I guess they would call it like the Super League Cup or whatever, and then they would be the super team of the year.
The stupid.
So it's basically the NFL, and that is your Super Bowl, and that's the structure.
Yeah. Also, we should probably clarify another point that doesn't work. So if you are one of the founding clubs, which we only learned about 12, there was meant to be 15, but we only learned about Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, both Milan clubs, both Manchester clubs, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Manchester and Chelsea. That's one. I always forget about Chelsea. Sorry. The suspicion was going to be the remaining 3 with Dortmund, Bayern, and PSG, but they all either disagreed or, well, they all disagreed, but for different reasons. Both of the German clubs are 50+1 owned, which is basically that the fans own the majority of the club. So any big decisions has to be put to like a fan committee, and I guess they just voted against it. PSG, James mentioned they disagreed, but the implication there was because they have a sponsor or a partnership with beIN Sport, who is also a sponsor or at least has a majority involvement with the Champions League, so they would have lost a lot of money if they left, because basically it was a league to replace the Champions League. And during its announcement, all the clubs left the ECA, the European Club Association, which meant that they were immediately excluded from any UEFA competitions. And obviously with PSG having a sponsor that's involved with UEFA competitions, they would have lost a lot of money. So they didn't do it.
I must admit, I wish these teams that rejected it, like was it Germany and PSG rejected it. I wish our
PSG,
I wish
Bayern,
our
and
friends
Dortmund
there went on like Liverpool Reddit, went guys, they're up to no good here. Like you need to try and sort this out before it gets traction. We've been asked to vote on the Super League and it's a load of crap. So you guys might want to kick off.
Well, I don't think they were asked. I think
I
Bayern
think they.
and Dortmund knew the fans would say no, and so it never even got off the ground.
I think Bayern and PSG were asked. I think there was documents
No,
leaked. I'm
they were
not sure about
asked,
the
but they
clarity.
didn't. They didn't ask the
Oh, the
fans.
fans,
They
the
they
fan,
never took it to the
yeah.
fans and said, "Do you want to do this?" They just said no straight away because they knew it would never get past the fans. So it was just
Yeah.
a straight up rejection.
So basically, what that means is those 15/12 clubs would never get relegated because they were safe from relegation. So basically, that means you could have a league or a season where, say, like a Leicester, for example, since they would be now the top Premier League team, most likely, they'd get promoted, and immediately they would know it's pointless unless they go and win it. Because, first off, you can do better than Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, City, United, whoever, but they're safe. They're still in it next year, so it doesn't really matter. They don't care. Also, with the inclusion of those founding clubs, they got I think it was like 3.5 billion euros between them, which worked out at like 300 million each. So they've got
Per
more
season.
per season. So they've got more additional funding than you. It's basically like imagine going into a league full of Manchester Cities where they're all safe from relegation.
And then they're going to come back because in their original premise, the Premier League and all the domestic leagues still existed, and this was a midweek competition. So then on a weekend, they're also going to be playing in the Premier League, which they said would take a back foot. The Super League would be like priority. So if they had to rotate teams, the rotation would happen in the domestic league. So you're getting lower quality games in your domestic league, but they'd have more money to build bigger squads. So you're talking about like City coming back on a weekend to play in the Premier League with 300 million extra to spend on players. So you're making your domestic league even harder, and they're in this Super League that they can never be like relegated from, which is just it doesn't make any. And the thing is, that can work. Like that's how the NFL works. There is no relegation in the NFL, but there are different things that happen in the NFL to get around that, like the draft, which there was no mention of a draft in this. There is promotion, like for 5 teams, which they never really discussed how that would work. They also never discussed how many teams would get relegated. So it's like in the NFL, there's no promotion and no relegation at all, like as a standard. So that's the reason it works. Then they have a player draft, and the worse you do. So if you're like the worst team in the NFL for that year, you get first pick in the draft of like getting new players in. So that's how they combat it, as in like, well, you can go and take a good player now, and maybe you'll do better next season. In this, there was no draft, and there was relegation and promotion, but only for certain teams. So like, it was just completely unfair. It was like these founding teams can never be relegated, but everyone else has to earn their way in and can still get relegated. The whole thing was a mess. There's just no. It was like one rule for 15, and then fuck your rest of you.
Yeah.
Shambolic.
And I believe that they would get funding when they entered the ESL, but it's nowhere near the level of the founding clubs. So
No.
I think it's still ridiculous. Go on.
I just wanted to say, obviously the news came out, and then I think we'll go over to we'll expand on sort of what unfolded. But hilariously, if you want to see our live reactions to what actually happened, go on our YouTube channel or on here.
Hang on, we should clarify it's not our live reaction to the announcement. We should clarify it's a live reaction to
the downfall, the collapse of the Super League.
Yeah,
was on our Sea of Thieves anniversary stream, where we set sail, where everything was up in the air, everyone was unhappy, and then we sort of departed our voyage. We finished our stream, and it had gone. It had been sunk. So that was a phenomenal journey.
Well, it was the start of the end, wasn't it? Basically. Since then, everything's collapsed even further.
So I'd like to think, in a way, us setting sail, because at the start I joked that we're going to set sail and try to combat the Super League.
Yeah.
And at the end, I feel like we'd sort of achieved our mission somehow.
Well, we'll put it this way: pre-FishStakes anniversary stream, Super League was up and thriving. I wouldn't say thriving, but it was up and running. And then, by the end of it, it'd gone. So, you're welcome. football
I would
fans
say.
around the world.
When this was first, I'm trying to think, when was it? When was this? When did this come out? Was it Saturday, Sunday morning,
It
maybe?
was Saturday night, I believe.
Saturday night. So it's sort of like it took the whole football world by absolute storm. Like the pundits, Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville gave many passionate speeches about it. Every pundit you'd ask was not happy about it. Said it ruins football. It's taking money from the lower clubs. There's no competition in it. Like as I said, well, I think you could,
It
like, you
was
couldn't get
more.
relegated. It's
It
just
was
pure
more
greed.
games.
By greed,
More
it
games for
would take
players.
it would take more money away from the smaller clubs. It would end up probably destroying some of like the lower league clubs. It was an absolute travesty, and it was greed run by the owners of these clubs, where not even like the players or the managers
And what's
had any
even more
knowledge.
disgusting about it as well is they used it during the pandemic because they knew that if fans were going to be in, there'd just been like, can you imagine if they'd announced this on Saturday night and then, I mean, say for example, I mean this did happen anyway, but like, say for example on the Monday night that Leeds were playing Liverpool, imagine if that was at Anfield. Could you imagine the fans in Anfield after that announcement? It wouldn't have lasted. I know it was a short time it lasted anyway, but it wouldn't have even lasted half as long. I don't think.
We see. So then, well, I'm trying to think. Like, obviously, throughout Sunday, things were kicking off. I think Liverpool played Leeds. Leeds wore themselves training tops that says, was it football? What Champions League has to be earned or something
Yeah,
like that, which is
football's for the
absolutely true.
fans.
And then apparently they gave them to Liverpool, but Klopp said after the game that we can't wear the shirts. Well, obviously, they were been told, and he was.
Yeah.
I think he spoke quite fairly on it. He said, "You know my views." He said in the past he doesn't want it. He doesn't like it. And then I think Milner was interviewed, and Milner also said, "My personal opinion is I don't want this." Then more and more football players came out and spoke out against it. Had a few managers speak out against it. And on Sunday, things were getting a bit of traction where it was like protests were being started. There was words that the cop wasn't going to be have any flags. There was protests being planned. It was all kicking off. It was like it managed to unite the entire like football world. It's
Yeah,
like
it was. There wasn't fan bases. It was just football fans. It wasn't like Manchester United fans,
yeah.
Liverpool fans. It was like everyone was just a football fan.
It's like the United fans were talking to the Liverpool fans. Were talking to like saying, "What can we do to try and band together to sort this out?"
Even in politics, you'd managed to align to the interests of Jeremy Corbyn, Boris Johnson, and the EU. How have you done that? How you should know that your plan's fucked up if you've managed to unite the three of them against you.
It sort of reminded me of the film Watchmen, where was it like Dr. Manhattan had to become the enemy to unite the world together to stop him.
Yeah, it was.
But it was absolutely real. And then it was like I think Chelsea were playing, I think on the Monday night, and no, like Petr Cech was outside begging people to let the team bus in because they would block the bus.
I mean, that when you think about it, that was a huge thing because that was a Premier League match being broadcasted. Can you imagine if the Chelsea team couldn't get in on time?
I mean, they couldn't. They had to delay kickoff by 15 minutes.
Oh, did they? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, fair enough.
The only reason they got through is because
they cancelled
they pulled out and then announced to everyone, "We've pulled out." And then everyone's like, "All right, let the boys in." It's like
just tap the back of the bus.
Worked.
It goes, yeah.
So I mean, like, if it proves anything, it's that like the fans do have power.
We should probably distribute the appreciation quite fairly because there was a lot of people responsible for this. Even before the collapse, there was a lot of people like Gary Neville was probably the main key instigator in getting everything. Same with Jamie Carragher.
He was fantastic, Gary Neville, to be fair.
Yeah. And Klopp and James Milner were the first people to actually voice their opinion about it pre the cancellation. I know some of the other managers have done interviews, but like Thomas Tuchel had done one, and he was very on the fence about it. He just didn't want to say out of the way, but they were quite. James Milner and Jurgen Klopp were both quite like. They were limited to what they could say, obviously, but they made it clear that they didn't like it and didn't want it.
And there was word about apparently, like Klopp said, I understand that people may say I could resign over this, but I think apparently he said he'd rather stay and try to fight for the fans to get this sorted to make sure this doesn't happen.
He was keen on trying to get it resolved, is what he implied.
I think Rashford put up quite a powerful image of, I think, one of the
Yeah,
banners.
I've got a list here. So it was James Milner, Jurgen Klopp, Lovren, old boy, still doing good for the great football, and the Herrera, who wasn't in one of the big six teams. Bruno Fernandes, Pep Guardiola did a significant. Did you see his interview?
I did not.
He said a lot of honest opinions about not just the ESL and the owners, but even like UEFA and how this came about in the first place. So much so that I think in America they cut his I mean, I know they did this with James Milner as well, but they cut this interview with Pep Guardiola just entirely because of how
I'd love
honest
to
he
know
was
why,
with it.
because
I actually
I don't
think
particularly imagine anyone cared in America, to be honest.
I mean, probably just because it was any bad negativity, they just want to get rid of it.
it was a Red Sox player, wasn't it? A Liverpool shirt in America that spoke
I
out
can't
about
remember
it.
his name now. Yeah, Red Sox player. Now, if you don't know what that means, it's basically FSG own as I think it's Boston Red Sox, and one of their players on the night or the day after that they were announced it, one of their players did a post-match interview in a Liverpool shirt, and he just said this is purely coincidental, which it wasn't, obviously, and he just said he likes soccer the way it was. So we'll forgive him for the terms using the term soccer purely because he was on our side.
Well, if you ever find yourself at Anfield, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for your support.
Patrick Bamford also had a powerful statement by saying, like, look how UEFA tries to sort this out when it's jeopardizing their funds and not racism stuff. Luke Shaw, Ozil, Rashford, De Bruyne, Tony Kroos again in the spotlight because he's part of the big six teams. James Corden even mentioned it on his show, which was a big because he's got an American audience, so that was a big thing as well. And of course, our special boy, Jordan Henderson, for uniting all of the Premier League captains, including the LFC players, in voicing their public opinion.
Did that meeting actually happen?
I feel like Henderson was probably sat there going, "Oh, this has sorted itself out. Anyone fancy a game of Scrabble?"
I'm pretty sure it had sorted itself out before that meeting happened.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he put out a letter which was, I think, to represent himself and the rest of the Liverpool players.
Well, he spearheaded that whole thing, didn't he? So
with the rest of the Liverpool players, and they all banded together. I think that was the first message that was like. I think that was the first maybe captain speaking out with the full support of the rest of the team.
It was the first public. I think it was the first public thing from the players since the first major public thing, because I think Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford and even James Milner to a degree, they'd all said something negative about it, but it was very confined. Whereas Jordan Henderson managed to spearhead everyone into basically saying their opinion, and it went around the whole LFC team.
And then obviously, I don't know who's. I mean, we had obviously the announcement that Chelsea had dropped out, City had dropped out, and then things were getting traction quite quickly. Then, and we're like, this could happen. This could actually be sorted out now. And then I'm trying to think if some of the other clubs felt and pulled out.
So
I think Man
Chelsea...
United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Spurs were all in very quick succession.
So the way it worked is Chelsea started planning to pull out, so they'd started the prep work to pull out. City had just outright left; they'd already submitted their withdrawal.
I think Chelsea announced, right, we're leaving, and then City went, we've already left, mate.
Yeah, basically Chelsea was like, right, we're gonna look to leave, but so don't worry, we're gonna get this sorted. We're gonna look to it, and Man City have just gone, oh, you're leaving, right? I'm out, and that's it. It was that quick.
Man City had the email ready. They were just hovering over the send button.
Yeah. They were like, just tell me when, Roman.
And then obviously all the other clubs quickly got statements out, probably around maybe about 10 o'clock.
Oh, actually, night. Some of the appreciation should show is to the Chelsea fans, because they basically led the thing. I mean, it probably would have, if it hadn't been them, it probably would have been one of the other fans of the Big Six. But it was just that theirs happened to, a game happened to fall to them at home quite quickly. So they actually did really well. So shout out to those Chelsea fans that attended.
We'll put in quotes Chelsea fans because we all know it was really like the secret agents of the La Liga. But
Yeah, obviously.
Chelsea fans.
Yeah. Quote unquote Chelsea fans. So yeah, big shout out to them. You did your part for football. Go down in history. So I've got a little theory, if you want to hear it.
Sure.
About how the ESL itself wasn't actually meant to go ahead, and it was all just a plan from Florentino Perez.
I mean, I don't think. I mean, I did say as soon as it was announced, there's no way it's going to go ahead. And granted, it got further than I thought it would have done.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. And did anyone look at the website, by the way?
Yeah.
Because the website was awful. Like, if there was any indication they had no intention of actually making it, it was that website. Like, it was put together by my dad. So like, there was no way. Like, if they were really wanted to take it serious, they'd have had all that set up and ready to go.
Yeah.
It was like overnight, someone got the intern to make a website because they were like, "Shit, we got to announce this tomorrow."
Yeah.
So like,
they didn't even have a badge by the time they announced it. They didn't even have like a logo. They got that separately.
And by the way, it wasn't even called the European Super League. It was just called the Super League, which is also a lame name. It's like Rocket League.
The expectation for that was going to be because although there was no immediate rumours of it happening, is it was going to start taking place around the world. So it was going to be like a tour thing. So it was going to be like you'll watch Liverpool play Barcelona in Dubai, and next week you can watch Manchester United play Juventus at Abu Dhabi and shit like that. So that was the suspicion as why they didn't call it the European Super League, but that was then fixed when they decided to get a badge and a logo, because it did then involve the European part in it.
So obviously there's a...
I know you... Go on.
But I say that because there's like a couple of things that I wanted to try and cover on.
Same. So mine's like an actual full-on... I've got a full-on theory, Craig, so you go ahead.
Right. I mean, you can read your theory because mine's sort of like a sub.
Okay, well, I'll blast through it really quick.
You go.
So, basically, my theory is that Perez planned this all along. The reason for that is because we all know at this stage that Real Madrid are £900 million in debt through just their own lack of ability to manage finances. They just buy players all the time and don't really care. It'd probably be near impossible to sell Real Madrid, knowing that either most of the funds are going to go into bailing out Real Madrid, or you're going to have to try and find a seller that will buy it despite the £900 million debt. So he'd basically come up with the idea of the European Super League. So first plan, assess what would make a lot of money in football. What do people want to see? Well, probably big names. You'll want to see the likes of Messi versus Ronaldo probably every few weeks, or Man United versus Liverpool every few weeks. That'll bring in a lot of money. Obviously, the big 3 or 6 clubs, depending on what league you're looking at, bring in a lot of money since they have a bigger fan base. So, okay, make a league just filled with them. Set to replace Champions League, perfect. Makes sense. Now you've got to convince all the clubs to join. So, I think it's probably it's very easy to imagine that the big 6 in England are probably crucial to this, since 1, there's 6 of them, and 2, they probably make what I imagine would be more money than the big 3 in La Liga and Italy. Since the Premier League is probably the most... I think it's factually the most popular league, isn't it, in the world? The Premier League?
I mean, I think so. I think it makes the most money.
I think it is. So basically,
Definitely
you've got to try and get them involved. Now, pretty easy to convince them. Half of the owners of those clubs are American. So, Kroenke, FSG, and the Glazers. What do they think is successful? Well, the NFL. That format works. They know it. It makes money. Make it an NFL format. They're on board. Perfect. Now that they're on board, it's pretty easy to convince the rest of them, because I think it was revealed in the documents that Man City, there's no real point to them staying in the Premier League if United and Liverpool are out. Same with like Tottenham and like Chelsea. So they're now on board. And then with the big six from England, it's pretty easy to convince the rest of them. So Atletico, Barcelona, Juve, and both Milan clubs. Third is fine investors. Well, apparently Ed Woodward, I don't know what the link is, but Ed Woodward had a link to JP Morgan. I think he used to either work for them or he used to be some sort of big investor there or whatever. So he's managed to find or somehow involve JP Morgan with their £3.5 billion investment for all the clubs. So if anyone was a little bit nervous just on the fact that of like, okay, well, we've got the big six clubs, where's the money actually going to come in from at the start, where you've got JP Morgan now giving you £3.5 billion. Fourth is, now that the fourth action is, now that the money's on the table, you need to find out that even if this goes wrong, how are you going to benefit from it from Perez's point of view? Legally binding contracts. Get everyone to sign something so that if they want to leave, they have to pay you. And the report I found during this was that if you want to leave, you have to pay the same amount that you get when you join as a founding club, so 300 million, basically. Now, even if it was only 3 clubs that left, 300 million from each of those clubs is enough to bail Real Madrid out. So you're happy there. Now that the reality is that 6 English clubs have left, and I can't remember how many from the others. I don't know who's actually still technically in it. But they've now got themselves out of debt and
3
profit.
clubs still in it.
Who are they?
Juve, Barca, and Real Madrid.
All clubs with big debt.
Although, what's the owner's name of Juve?
Magnolia or something like that.
Well, whatever his stupid ass name is. He came out and said it's obviously not happening. Like they're still in it because they don't want to pay the fee that they're leaving, but I think they are all on the same page here that it's finished.
Now this theory can apply to if they're included in the plan, by the way. So if I don't know what the name of like Barca's owner is, but if they're all in on it with Perez,
I don't think they will be. I think they literally don't want to leave because they don't want to pay the fees. I don't think they'll get any of the money. I think they just don't want to pay any of the money.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I think I read that.
I think this
money was gone anyway.
You say that again?
Like the fee, like the investment. I think. It
has. I'd send that to the group chat. So basically, I agree with your statement, James. I'm just saying this can still apply if they are involved. Basically, it's because they're the last 3 remaining clubs. This can still apply to them since they're all in debt. So, the plans to ensure a payout before the Super League can be officially disbanded, because if you're Perez, you have to make sure this doesn't fall apart before you can get the money, because then who is actually going to be operating on the authority of the Super League if this goes to court? Because like I can't imagine all of the 6 English clubs and like Atletico and the 2 Milan clubs will all just happily pay the 300 million. I assume some of them will want to take it to court and try and find a legal loophole. So your plan is to try and get the money before that can happen. Say that again.
Get City's lawyers on the phone. They'll sort it out.
Just share City's lawyers with everyone. So basically, it's like for them, it could be a race against time. Now, it's not really sure because this is more the legal side. It's not really sure if you can still enforce a binding contract after the organization it's meant for has fallen apart. I don't know the legality of that. So if it can, and the other 2 remaining clubs aren't involved, then Perez will be so annoyed because basically he wants them to leave before the money comes in, because then he's legally obliged to share it with the remaining 2-3 clubs. But if he can still take action after the Super League's disbanded, then he can just wait for it to fall apart, and then as Real Madrid, as an independent enforcer of the Super League or whatever, however you legally define it, he can just go and collect the money from everyone. So basically, he from the start has planned this in order to get Real Madrid out of debt, and possibly the theory can still be applied to if Barcelona and Juventus are involved. Obviously, it's not really clear with that because they could just be still in it because they can't afford to pay the 300 million to get out. But also the fifth part is to do a public appearance, giving off the impression that you're not capable of this. So we're all aware of the interviews that he's done, where he sounds like an idiot about how legacy fans don't matter, about how football should be shortened because kids can't watch it for that long. There was an interview where he forgot, when he was naming the founding English clubs, that he forgot Tottenham, because he was going like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, United, Liverpool, and then the host went Tottenham, and he went, "Oh yeah, Tottenham." And I think if you're a part of this whole ordeal, you wouldn't forget a detail like that. Plus, I believe this guy's been involved in Real Madrid in football since the early 2000s. Now, if you're that successful, that rich, you can't be that dumb. So I think he's purposely doing interviews to make himself look stupid so that people can't get onto the idea that he's doing this on purpose to try and bail Real Madrid out. So, plus, when you make a wild statement, everyone's eyes is going to be focused on that rather than like the actual point of the ESL or whatever, if that is his point. Like, people are not going to be like, hang on, is he doing this on purpose? They're just going to be like, he's an idiot for thinking the games need to be shorter. Especially if you're abandoning legacy fans, expected them to travel for an... It was reported, I don't know how true this is, but it was reported he wanted to shorten the 90-minute game to 18 minutes. It's unclear if that's 18 minutes aside, like a half, or if that's 18 minutes a total game with like 9 minutes a half. But 18 minutes is a total. I mean, either one is awful.
It can't have that game be 18 minutes.
No.
That's ridiculous.
You'd get there, you'd start watching them, and then before they could even get into the actual rhythm of the game, it would be like full-time whistle.
I mean...
Half-time would be as long as a half.
He probably has a bit of a point in what he's saying about, like... Because I think he said something like 40% of the younger generation are not interested in football. Which first of all means that 60% are, which I think is that's surprising to me, because like I can see why they wouldn't be interested in football. Like, the way the sport has gone, like especially in England, you can't even go and watch it. Like, you have to be grandfathered into a season ticket to ever go. There's really, aside from like charity games, it's very, very difficult to get to a game if you're not a season ticket holder. Even if you can manage to get a ticket from somewhere, you always are paying over the odds. So we're talking about kids. Kids can't go and watch it for a start. So why are they going to get into it? Like, there's other things they can do and actually be a part of a lot easier than football. Second, getting that out the way, like maybe you can just say, well, they can watch it on TV, like most consumers of the sport do. Well, there's that many different subscriptions that you need now, because like the Premier League's on Sky, and then the Champions League's on BT, and now Amazon have got involved and they've got some games.
Well,
like,
even the Premier League, they differ between Sky,
split.
BT, and Amazon.
You need like 3 or 4 different subscriptions to watch every game. If you want to watch the European leagues, that's even more, because I think you need like Premier Football or whatever that channel is for La Liga. Like, so you're expecting kids to get their parents to pay for all of these subscriptions. Like, I don't know how much that equates to.
Well,
I don't even think
they're expecting the kids to pressure the parents to pay. I just think they're hoping on the parents being interested in the first place.
But I mean, I'm saying, if you're talking about getting kids more interested in the game, the ways to go about that are not to shorten football from 90 minutes. It's to
make it more distributed.
Make it more accessible. One, make the grounds more accessible to kids. Do you know what? One thing that annoys me is every year pre-season, like I understand the grandfather thing with the season tickets, because you can't expect someone to just give up a season ticket. Like, it's gotten to that point. There's not many ways you can really sort that out now. It is what it is. But every year in pre-season, the clubs do tours around the world. Like, Liverpool will go to America and they'll tour around America, and they'll do like player events where you can go and meet the players, or you can go and like watch Liverpool play whoever. And it's just like, if you're a foreign fan that never gets to see them, this is your chance to go and see them. Do that in England. Do a pre-season tour of England where you can't get in just with a season ticket. You have to buy a ticket for the date that's established, and they're cheap and accessible. So kids, like, it's a chance for like families that otherwise can't go to the game to get involved and go and see it and say like, right, kids, we're gonna go and watch Liverpool, or we're gonna go and meet Liverpool. They're doing a player event at like
Mhm.
Prenton Park or whatever, so we're gonna go and like meet the squad, and then that's how you get kids involved in football, not shortening the game from 90 minutes to 18 minutes or whatever ridiculous thing he said. Like, there are other things that need addressing other than like the length of the game or whatever. It's stupid. He's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Is he an idiot or is he actually trying to be a tactical genius? That's what we don't know
I
yet.
think he's an idiot.
I think he's
I mean,
an
look,
idiot,
right.
but trying to be a tactical genius.
The other thing as well is, I know he's in debt by 900 million. One, don't build a new stadium. They're literally building a new stadium right now. If you're
Yeah.
in debt, don't build a new stadium, mate. Two, stop paying ridiculous wages to players. Like, have the balls to say, right, you're getting your wages cut, mate, because we can't afford
Well,
this.
do you know
And
what's
that includes
interesting about that?
Barcelona.
Do you know what's interesting about that? I'm
Go
sure
on.
he did an interview where he said like football in its current format won't survive. Like I think it was like 6 years or something like that. But immediately after the destruction of the Super League, they'd signed on David Alaba as a free agent for I think like a 5 year
Yeah,
deal.
it's ridiculous.
And it was like, well, I thought it wasn't going to exist for that long then, and you're paying him £200,000 or something like that a week.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
like, well, I thought you said it wasn't
£200,000
going
a
to
week.
last that long.
It's ridiculous.
So what's the reality? Is it going to last that long? And if not, why are you paying
No.
him for this long?
Because he's stupid. Like, he knows that he can't afford that, and he's done it anyway. Because he just expects to make the money
I mean,
from
he's an
somewhere else.
idiot
Like,
because he's wasted his funds, but is this plan to try and counter that? Either way,
they
he's an
want
idiot
a
for getting into the
deal
position in the first place, but
that the Premier League has. The Premier League makes so much money off its broadcast deals, because it's so popular,
Mhm.
and they don't get that anywhere else. Like, obviously, all the European leagues don't have those same deals. They don't generate the same amount of money, and they're jealous of it. And that's what the Super League is. He wanted to make a league, involve the English clubs in it, because they're the ones that
They're the
bring
ones
all the
bringing in
interest
the
and all the
revenue.
money, and he would reap that revenue. That's all it ever was. He just wanted a piece of what the Premier League has.
Yeah, well, it's safe to say that it's all and utterly destroyed. We're just waiting for the final word. As Craig mentioned before, the investors, JP Morgan, pulled out, saying that they didn't realise the repercussions. Don't even know technically how the Super League is even still standing, to be honest. I think, what is the point in staying in it at this stage? I think.
Because they can't afford to leave.
But
They're just
how,
waiting for him to say, right, it's done, and then that's it.
But how has he not already come out to say that it's done? What is he still banking on? If you've got no investor,
don't
how
know.
are you gonna start this? Using
You never
what
know.
money? You're £900 million in debt.
To join the Super League.
It's done out. It's done out. It's
That's dead.
dead, Perez. If you're watching
It's-
this, it's dead.
It's
Leave.
It's strange. It literally lasted like 2 or 3 days, and then it was.
But it
then
shows
so many-
it shows the power that not only fans but all the ex-players, all the personalities, everyone involved in the sport, it shows the power they have. Because I mean, ultimately, it started with Chelsea and Chelsea fans protesting because they couldn't let the bus in. They had to pressure Roman Abramovich into leaving. That then led to City pulling out, which then led to the rest of the UK clubs pulling out, which then led to the Milan clubs and Atletico Madrid. And then it just fell apart from there. That then the investor pulled out. So it's power to the fans.
I did want to say a few things because I know said we could go on about this for absolutely hours, but I wanted to get a few points in that I want to say. I say initially, in terms of connection between owners and fans, I feel like for most part, all the initial statements that came out from the clubs were shocking.
Yeah.
And I don't know where everyone stands in the grand scheme of things. I know, was it Henry was the first apology video that I actually seen. I think I don't know if it is he the only one.
Basically, the first one. I don't know what Chelsea's and City's were. Arsenal basically just said, "Look, we got it wrong. We apologise." we're not going to be a part of it now. Liverpool released that statement and that apology video from John Henry. United just went, we're not a part of it now. And there's a whole uproar from them because
They
the
have
Glazers
since released like a full statement.
have they? I haven't
Yeah,
read it yet, so I don't know what it says. Is it more like? Is it just like getting a we apologize type of thing?
Yep.
So
I'm still obviously everyone's happy and said they've got a lot
actually, I
to
don't
answer
think
for.
Tottenham have said anything.
No,
I think they've
Tottenham
said
still haven't said nothing.
anything.
They're the only club that haven't actually addressed it at all.
Wow.
Just pretend
Yeah.
nothing's happened.
They've got a lot going on though. I mean, they sacked Mourinho and
Which was definitely a scapegoat.
Tottenham, even though they were in it, because I think everyone was surprised that Tottenham were even in it anyway. Like, are they aware this has happened?
European superpowers and Tottenham's involved.
I'm gonna say, I know from my personal view, I know we spoke about it. Obviously, it's a hell of a long way still to go to make amends. I was happy with, well, not happy, but I mean, I accepted John Henry's apology video. Depending
Satisfied.
if they act on it or not, remains to be seen. I said they've got a hell of a long way to go to try and win the fans back. But I mean, he said he apologised. He made a mistake, so we'll wait to see. I mean, I still think they've done a lot of good for the club. Obviously, they brought in Klopp. They've just supported them in transfers. They've done some very good transfers. I agree, they've been very tactical in the transfers, but so far they've pulled off. So I mean, credit to them, and they brought Liverpool a lot of success, and they certainly helped them become a much better club. So fair enough. I am willing to forgive if obviously they have to promise they don't do any more shiz like this in the future. Like hopefully they will be, reaching into their back pockets come summer to actually support the team, as it should be, and we will see. We will see what happens with them.
Yeah, one thing we should clarify is none of us here, we all have different views on it, but none of us here ultimately want FSG out. I think it's very naive if you do. I'm probably the most cynical about them at the moment, from this group that's on the call.
Personally,
I think it's a system issue.
If you've been watching this podcast, you can tell Jake is very cynical because he seems to think Perez is a criminal mastermind. But yeah, none of us are FSG out. I feel like
the reason
if we get into it, we'll be here for hours.
There's basically summing it up is we all somewhat think that their previous actions deserves them the time to repair the bond, but depending on what that repairing is yet to be seen.
And I'd also like to say, I think, my opinion, which I think hopefully sums it up for me, was I feel like between these owners and the other 6 owners, I feel like anyone who would have enough money to buy a club the size of Liverpool, when they found out all these other clubs are on board, it would have been the same. It would have been the same outcome, and I honestly feel like if Everton owners were said the big 6 are in this, do you want in as well? They would have said yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with the distributors as well.
It's like a knock-on effect. I honestly expect the majority of clubs, knowing what clubs were in it already, any owners would have. And then I feel like if Liverpool had owners that weren't FSG, the owners would have made probably the same decision when they found out who's involved and what's going on. So I feel like ultimately it might be more the German system of, was it the 50+1?
Yeah.
I feel like ultimately what needs to happen is look at the ownership to prevent this happening again, but across the board. I don't think it's an issue with the specific owners. They just need to have laws put in place to try and prevent this happening.
What I'd also like to say is we should probably, if that doesn't happen, as Craig said, if we can't get like a different change in ownership for, I don't know, whatever reason, let's not just try and get John Henry's head on a pike, because, as Craig briefly mentioned, out of all the big 6 owners, he is by far the best in terms of, like, he was the only one to come out with a public apology, show his face on camera, which for me was a big deal. Like, I appreciated that a lot. I know you guys did as well, but I obviously don't want to speak on behalf of you. But also, they're willing. They've shown, like, James mentioned this most of, like, it was no we apologize. It was John Henry on camera saying I'm sorry. It wasn't like oh, we're all sorry, you've got to forgive us now.
I think
it was like a
he
genuine
literally
like I'm
said,
sorry. Yeah.
he literally said, I am solely responsible for the mistakes and the hardships that this has caused you,
Yeah.
which is very personable, as
Yeah.
opposed to a piece of paper with some writing on it from Arsenal, which said, we
We're sorry.
apologize.
Yeah, we all apologize. Yeah.
Because there's
also,
no
if
face to that either. I know that you can say, like, it's the board, it's like a, that's the board apologizing, we apologize, but like, it's not. It's just them getting away from pointing a finger at anyone in particular. It's a faceless we. At least John Henry, with his face on camera, saying, "I am solely responsible for this." He's at least shouldering the blame.
And nobody
Plus-
wants a pointless we.
Nobody wants a pointless
no
we.
one. And also, if you don't hold sentiment in any regard, then let this be your saving grace of, again, James summed this up very well. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. If we were to sell it, how do we know it's going to be any improvement? How do we know it's going to be the same? It could go very wrong. Liverpool is now... Go on.
They definitely won't be, and I went into this yesterday in chat. I don't want to take up like an hour talking about it, but they definitely will not be as good as FSG in terms of recruitment. Like, they definitely just won't be. FSG have got so much sporting knowledge from owning like the Red Sox and from all of their different fingers in the different pies in America that they brought to Liverpool, and we know it's worked. It's not even worth talking about. We know it's worked. We've seen the signings they've made, and we've seen the impacts they've had on this club. We've seen where we've come in 10 years. We've been world champions. We've been European champions. We've been Premier League champions. We know how good they are. If we get other owners in, which we're not gonna, if we did, they wouldn't be as good in that field. Period. Would they be morally less corrupt? Maybe, but there's a solid chance
no guarantee
that they won't be. And if you look at the owners we've had in the past, and if you look at other owners of other clubs right now, all of them only care about their own self-interest and their own greed. So mathematically, would they be any less morally corrupt? No. Would they be better tactically? No. So is it a good idea to change owners? Not really. The only benefit you could get is bringing in someone with like more money, and therefore was able to buy better players. But you know, you got to weigh up whether that's what you really care about as a fan and as a club, because
and it doesn't always work. It's not guaranteed
it doesn't
to work.
And there's something to be said for us winning the Premier League in a league against a team like City, who are that kind of team that do have that kind of money. Like, it felt a lot better. And this season hasn't felt great, but like, when we, if we can reach those heights again, it'll feel great, and it'll feel like we accomplished something, as opposed to we just bought something.
It's actual pride rather than just throwing money at something. So it just calm it down with the FSG out. Think about what you're actually saying.
Also, they're not gonna leave, so it's just like,
we should clarify.
Find another way to fix it.
I mean, I don't know. I've seen this since you said it in the group chat as well, but apparently they turned down a £3.1 billion pound offer for Liverpool, which shows one, that they're willing to try and work on it, but also it's unlikely that they're gonna find any other buyer, because when they bought the club, it was worth 300 million because of the previous owners had fucked it up that much. It's now worth a reported 4.109 billion. So good luck finding anyone who's willing to pay who's got that sort of money, who's willing to pay it in 2021 during a pandemic.
That's the other thing, by the way, that I wanted to mention about them, is they've run Liverpool sustainably. Like, when you look at clubs like Chelsea and City, they have the money to be unsustainable. Of course they do. So like, they can operate at a loss in a transfer market. Like, they can buy players and not sell anyone, or sell for less than they buy for, because money isn't an object to them, and that's fine for them. But like, when you look at a club like Real Madrid and Barcelona, who do the same thing but run their business unsustainably, they're in debt. Like, Real Madrid are 900 million in debt. It's not sustainable. They can't sell it. They can't move on from it, because no one's going to want to buy into that. Liverpool, FSG have put us in a position where when they do leave, and they will one day, we're gonna be a very lucrative deal for someone. Like people want to be part of this club now. So like they've done massive things for this club, and running it sustainably is so important for the future, not just right now.
Yeah.
Like you got to think about the future.
It's incredible we even had an offer for a 3 point whatever billion in the first place in this day and age, which shows like that it is a system that works. It is sustainable because you don't just throw 3 point whatever billion at a club just because it's popular. You've got to look at it as a sensibly.
Yep.
So shows that it works. Shows that they're willing to stay and try and fix it. Which, even if you're as cynical as I am, which you think all of their previous actions were only for their own gain, it's earned them at least the chance to try. So give it a go. Don't just call for the red straight away. Let's see how it works, and just think about what you're actually saying. Because if you're the one that calls for the red and they go and we get a shit owner, your fault.
I mean, I agree that things need to change, and that's what people need to campaign for and push for, like a change in the governing system of a football club, what being an owner means, and how decisions are made within a football club, and that's globally, or at least focus on Premier League clubs first, sort them out. But that should be across the board, every club, like because this problem obviously runs deeper than just Liverpool. But that's what we should push for, not just to get FSG out, because there's no point. They're not going to leave anyway. So they're here to stay. Let's figure out a better way for everyone to operate
work together. Yeah.
Would anyone be object to do the United predictions? And as I don't know about you reviewing, I would like to watch the final. I don't know if you have plans to watch the final.
I didn't. But
when's it kick off?
It's on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we've been on a while, like, so we probably should wrap up.
So, yeah. I mean, I thought we could do United predictions, and then obviously there's only the United game next week.
Very quickly, I did have another point, but we can wait for the official announcement. There's rumours that reported we're going to get Ibrahim Konate, but we can just discuss that in the podcast when that's official. So the next podcast when that's official.
Next time around, it would just be the United game. We will hopefully we won't have the super duper league to have contended with next time around as well, and hopefully we can cover United. And
sure,
I like to spend some time on my summer ins and outs list.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. On a clear out. But said United is next Sunday, I believe. United away, huge game. I know. I mean, I'm going to have to watch this one from behind the couch, even though I feel like ultimately, in my opinion, the season is over for Liverpool. So I don't think there's anything. As much as I don't think there's anything to gain for Liverpool position-wise, because I think the Champions League is gone.
Yeah, we still don't want to lose, do you?
Just maybe, if you somehow beat Man United, it might spur Liverpool on to actually put the last 5 games together. Who knows? It's 4:30 on Sunday, the 2nd of May, by the way. Who knows? But ultimately, though, I mean, regardless of whether Liverpool were top 4 comfortably, nowhere near top 4, regardless of where these two teams are on the table, it's a matter of pride. Liverpool United, United Liverpool. It's one of the biggest
even
games
if
of the
there's
season.
Play for, you still don't want to lose it. You pride.
You have to turn up.
Yeah.
You expect a solid performance by them, and they should know the importance of this game. I'm absolutely terrified, and I must admit, my prognosis for thoughts on how this match will go isn't good. I'm going to go with not wanting to say anything bad. I will say 1-1.
I think I agree. I'm at that stage where I can't. Usually, I try and base my prediction on form and like predictability on previous games, but we're at that stage now where it's like we can beat an Arsenal 3-1. I think it was 3-1 or 3-0, and then we can draw against Newcastle 1-0. So I just don't know at this stage. I'm gonna say a 1-0 as well.
I think this is all they've got left to play for, and I think Klopp will be saying to them, "Leave nothing." I don't know. we suck.
I know.
I just think this is it. Like I said earlier, we have to get 3 points in the 5 remaining games if we stand any hope, and
Any
I think that
chance.
will be his message to them. Like, if we mess this one up, it's done. But I think that does mean, like, not only the pride aspect of playing United, but like, this is it for Liverpool. You have to absolutely win
Our
this
final
game.
chance, yeah.
That said, though, I just can't see it happening.
I mean, if he's back, well, if anyone's back, can I see Kabak and Nat Phillips contending with like Rashford?
Well, who was the lineup we had last time?
Against
what?
Newcastle?
No, for Liverpool. For United, sorry.
Flipping,
God
I mean,
knows.
that's an ask, isn't it?
Because it was a 0-0 last time. Granted, we were just starting to get into our poor form
Yeah,
at that
but
point, but
United are in good form right now as well, and they're playing.
they were at
Yeah,
that point.
They drew with Leeds. That's a plus.
I mean, Leeds are a really good side. Like,
Yeah, Leeds are actually
to be honest,
actually fairly good.
We played Allison, Trent, Fabinho, and Henderson at centre back. Andy
Okay.
Robertson left back. A midfield of Shaqiri, Thiago, Wijnaldum. Front three of Salah, Bobby, and Mane.
Okay.
So obviously we've got
We
no
have
Hendo there.
but we don't have him anymore.
We do have a Jota. That's pretty much it, really.
I'd say it's not too different. I think it is possible of a draw. I think we could possibly deal with their attackers if we can
what's
play
the point?
possession a
Though?
lot.
There's no point.
I mean, there is.
I'm gonna say, just being purely optimistic, 2-1. Only because there's absolutely no point in a draw. Like, we might as well go all out and win it. Like, play the whole game on ultra attacking. Just set them to ultra attacking and go for it, because there's no point if we lose.
There
it
is
doesn't
no
even
point,
matter.
but
Like,
that's what
and if
I'm
we draw,
predicting.
it doesn't even matter. So you might as well just go mental and hope for the best.
And ultimately, I feel like, well, I mean, you said United drew with Leeds. I think they're 10 points off City. The only the teensiest of hopes that they could catch City are long gone. Because I think there's 5 games left and they need to catch 10 points and goal difference.
No,
Good luck.
I think they were only like 3 or 4 points away from being the official champions again.
Yeah, City. I think. Yes, I think City might need United to maybe draw a game and for City to win 1 game or something like that. And I think it'll be done. Something like that. So yeah, so that's gone. So Pride is on the line next Sunday for Liverpool against United. And we shall return. We shall discuss. We shall look at our transfers. I've got a big list of summer out, so look forward to that.
I've put a whole squad together. Like, mine doesn't cover just this summer because it's unrealistic to buy them all. But I've basically
just said
rebuilt
Liverpool.
Liverpool. So.
Yeah. Okay, I got.
Not fully.
I've
I
got
haven't
an
got rid of
idea
like Salah and blah blah blah. But we'll go into that next week.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see then.
Make sure to follow us on all of our social medias to find out when this is going to be. Well, if this is going to be live, and if so, when. Go and check out our FIFA playthrough, career playthrough. We will see the likes of us as well as the remaining FishStakes members within a team as we try and progress through the Premier League and get Champions League. So go and check that out. It'll be in the description.
Put it this way, we've got more of a chance of getting European football than Liverpool.
Yeah, we do. We actually do, which is the sad part. If you watch this on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching this or listening to this on any of the podcast outlets, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, give us a rating if you can. If not, give us a follow. And look around for a link tree for all of our other social medias.
See you next week.
Goodbye from me.
Peace.
It's so awkward.